The fastest workers in the world. A calculator was invented in order to make calculations easier. Of course, today in the age of advanced technology, many people prefer to use the application on a smartphone because it is much easier, but not this girl, because it seems as if she can run calculations faster than a machine. At times when your grandparents were young, you would use a fork to make cookie marks and the whole process would last for hours. But the year is 2019, which means there are plenty of tools at your disposal. Many modern devices have been created to make life simpler and facilitate some daily routines. A mixer is used to beat eggs faster, a vacuum cleaner to quickly clean the apartment, a lawnmower to cut the grass. After all, you wouldn't use the scythe for that, right? It would take you a lot of time, though this guy proves the opposite. How long does it take you to peel an orange, and how many times do you spill juice on yourself? A knife drops from your hand or the peel gets under your nails sounds nasty. These feelings are not pleasant, but not all people experience them when they peel citrus fruits. Some people do this quickly and easily, and honestly we have no idea how they do it. What's going on here apparently is the worker is replacing the thread reel, but it's not about what she does but rather how she does it. She's fast, agile, and she even uses both hands at the same time. Imagine you have to unload a huge car full of lumber. This stuff is large and heavy. You clearly have a lot of work on your hands, but then this man comes to the rescue. He can unload all this cargo in a couple of seconds without even touching it and without breaking a single board. Have you ever watched waiters in action and marvel at how gracefully they move? They travel between tables while holding trays full of plates and glasses, not spilling a single drop. Surely any other person would not cope with this and would collapse with the tray and ruin a bunch of dishes. But not only the waiters can be really cool, just look at this janitor. The construction site is not the best place for having fun, and especially for acrobatic stunts, but this can't stop an experienced and fast worker who really loves his job. What if you need to transport a large gas cylinder? If you don't have a trolley, you can simply roll it at an angle. What about two large cylinders? Piece of cake. Yes, these are boxes. Yes, it looks like there are bottles in them. Yes, better not try to repeat it at home. But just imagine how fast chomping would be if all the employees work like these guys. We just have to mention street food masters. Streets are where real talents lie, because these chefs need to serve many customers every day. Make it look spectacular so that visitors would want to come again. Take cookies for example. They don't look particularly delicious, but does it really matter if the cook juggles them with the tray in his hands? It's all a matter of physics and natural dexterity, but probably everyone can master this skill. The main thing is to not break anything in the process. This street food, quite popular in Korea, is called a fish cake. The odd white mass which looks like dough actually has fish in it, and you can wrap anything in it. Some may consider this weird, but if you do it quickly, making a small show out of it, you will have endless lines of customers. All fast workers can be found in all areas. For example, let's take a look at these guys who line up the bricks, while in some countries it takes weeks to create a beautiful road. In the park, these professionals can do it in a matter of hours, not skipping the lunch too. Peeling onions or garlic might be a challenging task, and not just because you can easily cut yourself with a knife. The unpleasant smell will probably stick to you for a few more days, and no soap can eliminate it. In the park, these professionals can do it in a matter of hours, not skipping the lunch too. This girl was babysitting when she heard a knock at the door, then later mom got a chilling text. The 14-year-old young teenager, Savannah Jones, was given the responsibility of babysitting her little 4-year-old niece, Zoe. Savannah wanted to prove to her older sister that she was a grown-up and took the task of babysitting Zoe at their family home. They both were busy playing with the toys which were scattered in the living room, and the TV was on. It was a normal weekday in the quiet neighborhood situated in Montclair, California. However, the situation was about to change. There are times in life when an unexpected and dangerous event comes knocking on the door. This situation allows us to fight our fears and step up to do something amazing for ourselves and someone else too. Savannah is going to remember this day for a lifetime and gives her the strength to handle any uninvited obstacle. In the afternoon, around 3:30, out of nowhere, Savannah heard a knock at the front door. She knew that Zoe's parents wouldn't be home for hours then. Who could it be? Savannah wondered. Instead of opening the door, the babysitter went over and first looked through the peephole. It was a stranger with a hat on, so she couldn't recognize him, but he didn't look like a salesman, a police officer, or any other official of any kind. The teenager wasn't even informed beforehand that someone would be visiting, so she decided not to open the door. The man knocked a few more times on the front door but got no response, so in frustration, he started to jiggle the doorknob. When he found out that the door was locked, he persisted in knocking on the main door again, this time even more fervently. Whoever this man was, he was trying to force himself into the house. Meanwhile, Savannah was scared and didn't know what to do. They were all alone in the house and there was no one nearby to contact, so the smart girl picked up Zoe and ran down the hall towards the master bedroom. The smart teen had sprung into action. She hid herself and her little niece in the safest room, the master bedroom, and locked the door. She then crouched down and instructed the 4-year-old not to make any sound. The man standing outside the front door ran out of patience and kicked down the door. He barged inside the house. Savannah told Zoe that they were playing a game and she had to stay quiet. The babysitter was so scared that the intruder would hear them and was even more concerned that the man would harm them both. While the man was looking around the house, Savannah hoped he would stick to the outer rooms. She hoped beyond hope that the stranger would not come near the room they were hiding in. Then the teenager heard the intruder enter her mother's room, which was next to the master bedroom. So, she told Zoe to hide behind the toilet and crouched next to the 4-year-old. As they both sat in silence behind the toilet, Savannah realized that she still had her cell phone in her pocket. Without wasting any time, the clever teen quietly took out the phone, turned the sound off, and texted her mom Maria. "He's inside, Mom, he's gonna hear me. You call or come home, or something, Mom," she wrote, and waited patiently for the response. On the other hand, the robber was wandering in the house, opening and closing the doors. The mom saw the daughter's text and a chill ran down her spine. Maria was helpless to aid her trapped daughter and granddaughter, but she had to do something. Every minute passed felt like an hour, and the noise of the man ransacking the house could be heard outside the bathroom. Savannah kept staring at the door, praying that he wouldn't try to open it. Finally, she got a text from her mom. Maria had called a neighbor, and a few minutes later, the man began to scramble when the teen heard a familiar voice echoing throughout the house. Although the neighbor arrived as quickly as possible, the intruder had gotten away. Thankfully, he never found the girls and only ransacked 2 rooms looking for valuables but ran away empty-handed. The police arrived on the scene, and the Montclair officers, including the canine officer, conducted a thorough search for the thief. Despite the scent of the man being on everything, he escaped, maybe because of his partner who was probably waiting for him in a getaway vehicle. The family of both the girls rushed home to make sure that Savannah and Zoe were safe. However, the mother and the elder sister were proud of the 14-year-old teen and the way she had handled the situation. "She was very smart and brave and did everything right," said her sister. The teenager had proved to her elder sister and everyone in the family that no matter what, they can always rely on her. Many of us can learn a lot from Savannah Jones' story about how not to panic and end up being in harm's way. Her story is a valuable lesson for all the teens and young babysitters out there who are alone in the house. Make sure your phones are with you, never engage an intruder, and be calm so that you can think of different ways to protect yourself and your charges. When we see around the world, when people saw a wild animal or unpleasant creature around them, they tried to hurt them for their protection. But some people care about the creature and tried to release them at their particular place so that the creature can be live. The same had happened in this story, where a small creature was saved which was found in the bathroom of an Australian girl called Sabrina. The protagonist of our story today is Sabrina Raven, an ordinary woman who lives in Australia. As you know, Australia is a unique continent inhabited by many amazing creatures. Some animal from the green continent cannot be found anywhere in the world. But there are some whose existence we still don't even know about. But living in Australia, Sabrina probably has seen many unusual animals in her life. But did she ever wonder about the existence of the heroes of myths and legends in real life before this story happened to her? One evening Sabrina went to her bathroom to take shower and relax after a hard day work. There she heard strange sounds coming from the ceiling, and she looked in the direction from which the rustling sound was coming. She saw a small hole and a ball of fur in it. It looked eerie. What could it be? Sabrina wondered in her mind, maybe it's just a mouse or a giant fluff caterpillar or a clutter of spiders that just hatched. In any case, the woman was not happy about such a neighbor. So the girl got on a chair and poked it with her finger, probably not a smartest idea. But that did not scare the creature, and it did not run away. On the contrary, it seemed as if it was trying to crawl through the hole, which really scared Sabrina. The girl asked herself what it could be and how long it's been living in her ceiling. Many images scary creature from horror movies came to her mind. She did not sleep well that night, and in the morning she called a zoologist friend. They examined the hole together. And her friends concluded that the animal living in her ceiling was a common brush-tailed possum. The common brush-tailed possum is a member of the cuscus family, one of the largest marsupials in Australia. The length of its body varies from 35 to 55 centimeters, and it weighs between 1.2 and 4.5 kilogram. It lives in remote, sparsely populated areas and suburbs of most Australian cities. Sabrina Raven said on her Facebook page that animal often invade her home. Living near Brisbane, she had a variety of uninvited wild visitors, from magpies and blue lizards to snakes. This time it was a brush-tailed possum that moved in with her. "We have lot of these animals where I live. They scream terribly at night," Raven wrote. Sabrina tirelessly searched her house for holes but could not understand how the animal got inside. She also knew that fixing the hole that the animal has made in the bathroom ceiling was useless, as it would simply make another one. Why did not she just catch the intruder and take it into the forest, you may wonder. Actually, it's not that simple, Sabrina said on her page. In my state the possum are protected by law, so if we catch them, they need to be released within 20 meters of the place where they found. Which mean that they will just come back. After years of cohabitation, the animal, whom she nicknamed Floof, has evolved into a sort of friendship. Usually when I see it's just a bunch of fluff that she lets me pet, Raven said. They're soft like rabbits. Fluff is surprisingly attentive for a brush-tailed possum, allowing Raven to rest a little at night. She's pretty quiet compared to the others, Raven said. Sometimes she squeals before leaving or returning. Raven plans to build several possum nests, boxes, and place them around her yard, in order to convince Floof to move. But until then, she does not mind sharing her home with a charming possum. It's too hard to be annoyed about something so cute, Raven said. This is a prime example of how animals and humans can cohabitate and live in peace. This car sat in the same place almost every single day. He had to find out the story behind this vehicle. When he finally decided to tap the window, he wasn't ready for this. Jim loved three things: his family, dogs, and cars. So when Jim noticed this rather peculiar Jeep frequenting his local general store in Arizona, he immediately took notice that the car was always parked at one shop or the other. This made Jim a little nervous that it never seemed to go very far. Every time he saw it, the same thoughts went through his mind: who drives it? What are they always doing here? As soon as he was inside the store, Jim forgot that he even saw it until the next time he found himself out shopping again. Was he the only person seeing this? It would take Jim weeks before the curiosity was strong enough to find the answers to his questions. And in the end, he would need one final push over the edge, which compelled him to actually go near the Jeep. There happened to be a sticker stuck on the car that finally made him take the plunge. This was a day much like any other, except at this time, the Jeep was very close to where Jim had parked. This is how he saw what he did, proudly there for the world to see an "I Love Iraq" decal sticker. Jim couldn't take it anymore. He had to know what the story was behind this Jeep, and hanging around at the general store, he parked the car. Before Jim could talk himself out of it, he quickly got out of his car. Slamming the door shut behind him, he walked the short distance to his Jeep and stopped outside. With the sunlight reflecting off the window, it was hard to see if anyone was inside at all. So, lifting his hand, he knocked firmly on the window and stepped back. The driver's door was pushed open, and there was presumably the owner looking back at Jim. To get the conversation going, Jim opened with some car talk, complimenting the owner on his ride and introducing himself. Jim soon learned that there was more to the silver Jeep than he ever thought possible. The man's name was Aidan, and he had a story to share. Just as Tim suspected, Aidan was a veteran who had returned from battle, but what he wasn't expecting was the tale that followed. Aidan had just returned from his fourth and final tour to find out that his wife was leaving him, and it only got worse. Aidan had nowhere to stay, and he had no money left, so he did the only thing he could. He went to look for a job, slept in his car and tried to get enough food to feed his dog. Aidan had been sleeping in his Jeep for some time when Jim finally decided to have this chat. Jim couldn't just leave Aidan like this, so he decided to do something about it. After saying their farewells, Jim went home and immediately took to social media. He wanted to share not only the experience of meeting a veteran but also Aidan's plight. Jim put out a humble request about the interaction that he had with Aidan. He also mentioned how sad Aidan's story actually was and how he was terribly broke. Jim also wrote that Aidan had been selling things off the Jeep to have any money at all. He stated things as they were, showing the sheer helplessness of the old veteran's situation. Jim also wrote that if someone wanted to do something out of pure selflessness, he encouraged that they should. He tried his best to reach out to people, persuading them to help in whatever way they could. Jim's post soon made its way to almost everyone in Arizona, and after hearing about Aidan's tragic situation, a small army of people lined up to do whatever they could for him. It seemed that the story touched everyone's hearts, and the community responded in a huge way. Within a few short hours, people started showing up at Aidan's Jeep to offer what they could. The biggest gift was a week-long, fully paid stay at a hotel for Aidan and his dog. Aidan now has a warm place to rest, and his best friend is also taken care of. It's truly sad to see that this is how a person who has fought for his country is being treated. How could his wife think of doing something like this? Is this the way to treat someone who has ensured that you had a good night's sleep, let alone someone who is your own husband? It is truly sad. 10 secrets hotels don't want you to know. They want you to take or rather steal the samples. Most people think that they are being sneaky by stealing the free bars of soap, shampoo, and other toiletries. But you often don't realize that those products have the hotel's logo on the side. So, they want you to take their toiletries. This way, you advertise their hotel. So, when you put those items in your house, it's like free advertising for them. You can save money by booking the room last minute. If you are visiting a place specifically for an event like a conference or a concert, then it is best to book your hotel room ahead of time. But, if you are just going on a holiday and have flexible dates, then wait till the last minute to book a room. The prices of the room drop up to 50% when the managers are trying to fill empty rooms. There is always a vacancy. When you are driving past hotels and see the no vacancy sign lit up, you should probably ignore it. Why? Because usually, hotels do this when they only have 2 or 3 rooms left, which means there is still a chance that they have a room. There is still a chance that they have vacant rooms. So, instead of just relying on the sign, it is better if you call the front desk and ask them if they have any rooms available. They will give you the correct answer. Free breakfast isn't really free. Travelers love free continental breakfast so much that some people just book hotels to have that extravagant morning spread. But is that place of fancy toast and waffles really free? Not really. The cost of the breakfast is probably bundled into the price of your room. So, a hotel with normal breakfasts with similar services would cost less than a hotel serving a luxurious breakfast spread. They know who you are. In today's world, everyone has a Facebook or Instagram profile, everyone has some kind of social media presence. So at some hotels, they will often look you up on Google to see who you are. But don't worry, this is not meant to be creepy. They just want to know who you are and make your stay better. They will either look you up on Google, or if your profile is not private, then they might check your profile on social media. They are probably talking about you. Do you ever get that unsettling feeling that someone is whispering about you behind your back? Well, if you are in a hotel, your feeling might be actually true. The staff at the hotel is trained to keep an eye out for any odd or unlawful activities. So, don't get offended if you think they are talking about you. They are just trying to keep all the people in the hotel safe. The sheets were probably not changed. Here, we are not talking about luxury hotels. They have a policy of changing the sheets after every guest leaves. But the same can't be said for cheaper hotels and low-end motels. In some hotels, they don't change the sheets after every guest, but rather after every 3 to 4 days. And a few hotels might even wait for a week. So, always check your sheets when you enter the room. If you see anything nasty, contact the manager immediately. The drinking glasses only look spotless. The water glass sitting beside your bed might be shining for all the wrong reasons. The housekeeping staff might just be rinsing them off and drying them with a hand towel, and not washing them thoroughly. And in some hotels, they use furniture polish on the drinking glasses. Basically, their aim is to make glass spotless, by hook or by crook. It is safe to rinse and clean your glass yourself before using it. You can change your room for free. If you are disappointed by the view, broken furniture, or basically anything at all, you can go to the front desk and politely ask them to change your room. And if there are other rooms available, they will change it. They won't charge you extra, but will rather make sure that you are a happy customer. So, next time you don't like your room, remember that you can change your room for free. How much do hotel maids get paid? You might not know this, but the majority of the hotel maids get paid based on the number of rooms they complete in a day instead of pay per hour. This is the reason they frequently knock on doors and try to complete as many rooms as humanly possible. So, you may want to allow your maid to come in and clean. Also, it would be nice to leave a tip. They would at least be able to get a living wage. 7 places on Earth where gravity does not seem to exist. The Reverse Waterfall, England. This waterfall is located not too far from Hayfield and has water that reportedly goes right up toward the sky, making it look almost like a fountain. The secret to this reverse waterfall is in the wind. It is so strong there that the water that falls down is actually caught by the wind and pushed right back up. The height of the waterfall is approximately 78 feet, so where does this unbelievably strong wind come from? House of Mysteries, Oregon, US. There is a remote cabin built in a deep forest near the mystical Oregon Vortex. Native Americans call this area forbidden ground and state that it's a place to be avoided. It is believed that there is a kind of spherical force field here, half of which is below the ground level while the other is above. It has been said to make people feel reality in a different way. It is nearly impossible to just walk here, and you can't help but want to hold on to the walls just to prevent yourself from falling into the sea. There is also a broom here that does not fall, and no matter where you place it in the cabin, it will still to stand upright. In this seemingly mysterious place, even balls roll up on a totally flat surface. A road at the foot of Mount Aragats, Armenia. Sitting just on the border of Turkey and Armenia is a mountain that simply blows people's minds. Thousands of travelers visit this mountain every year only to witness the absolutely amazing anti-gravity phenomenon. It has been said that if you turn off your car engine at the very bottom of the mountain, the car will begin going uphill all by itself. There is also a river nearby that goes uphill too. Many people who have been here claimed that it's actually easier to go uphill than to go downhill. Hoover Dam, Nevada, US. When you climb up to Hoover Dam, which is about 726.4 feet tall, you can do a very simple experiment. Try to pour water straight out of a bottle, and you will see that the liquid won't flow down as it usually should, but it will fly up. The exact thing will happen if you try to throw a light object from the very same height as it will float because of the extremely strong airflow. Devil's Tower, Wyoming, US. Devil's Tower is a unique formation situated in the Bear Lodge Ranger district of the Black Hills. The perfect size and shape of the mound make it an incredibly important site in Wyoming, and climbers absolutely love it too. However, for some reason, climbers that have journeyed to Mount Everest can't even climb to the top of Devil's Tower. It is only 1,267 feet tall, but due to its steep walls, it is almost impossible to get to the very top, and it would be a lot harder to return back down. Golden Boulder, Myanmar. This unusual rock is completely covered with gold and almost looks like it's going to fall straight down at any second. But in reality, the boulder has been sitting in this very same place for an unbelievable 2,500 years. The boulder sits at about 49 feet high, along with the pagoda built right on top of it. According to the story, the boulder is supposedly held by Buddha's hair that is rumored to be inside of it. The boulder is not even fixed, and maybe anyone could move it, but nature hasn't even succeeded in throwing it down yet. However, it has been said that only a woman can move this boulder, which is why women aren't even allowed to touch the stone. Stone of Tabasco, Argentina. This massive boulder had reportedly lost its battle against gravity. The stone that weighed more than 300 tons had once been sitting on the edge of a huge rock for nearly thousands of years before tilting just a bit. The locals had checked it and put a glass bottle at the bottom, which cracked. On February 29, 1912, the infamous Tabasco stone fell down and left the locals speechless. About 95 years later, they decided to put a plastic copy of it back, which weighed only about 9 tons and is now fixed on the rock. When Camden Davis's behavior started to change for the worst, his mother did not know what to do. She tried to talking school to see if they knew what could be the cause, but her concerns fell on deaf ears. That's when she decided to take matters into her own hands, and what she discovered was nothing less than shocking. Melissa Davis is a married mother of 2 boys who lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She works with many horses as therapy animals and she loves her job. But what keeps her most occupied is her 12-year-old son Camden, who has special needs. She is fiercely protective of him, so when he started showing signs of distress, she knew she had to act. After Camden was accepted to the Greater Baton Rouge Academy, Melissa felt extremely lucky. The school prides itself on promoting inclusion, encouragement, positive relationship and recognition of student accomplishment. She has hoped school could give him supportable environment he needed to thrive academically. But soon she would find out the completely opposite. A few months into the school year, Melissa began noticing strange changes in Camden's behavior. He became more aggressive, his anxiety increased, and he even started wetting his bed, something he has never done since he was 3 years old. When she asked him what was wrong, he couldn't verbalize it. Still, she wasn't about to let it go. Thinking Camden's new school environment had something to do with this change, Melissa went to academy to talk about her son's situation. She tried to speak to the principal and school officials about where Camden was seated in the class and other things. But the school wasn't cooperative at all, so Melissa decided to take matter into her own hands. Melissa bought a tape recorder and put it into Camden's backpack one day before school. She hoped that the device will record anything that happening in school that was out of the ordinary. She knew it was an extreme measure, but given that her concerns had fallen on deaf ear, she had no choice. When Camden came back from school, Melissa could not wait to hear what was on the tape. Melissa took tape recorder from Camden's backpack. She knew she had to listen to hours of audio, with the possibility that could be nothing to take in the beginning. The beginning of the recording shows nothing, but then she come in the middle of recording to listen conversation of children that shook her to the core. Camden's teacher can be heard scolding him for not writing something he was assigned. This would be normal at a regular school, but special needs children need more acknowledgement. On top of that, the teacher's tone was condescending, even mocking. In shock, Melissa continued to listening, and the worst was yet to come. At one point, a conversation can be heard between the teacher and her teacher assistant. Though no children appear to be present, they were clearly in the classroom and close to his backpack. They were talking derogatorily about Camden, even using swear words. Melissa couldn't believe what she was hearing. "I just wanted to cry and scream and do everything because it was so bad," Melissa said. "To think that I had sent my son every day, and what had happened before that I didn't know about." Now with evidence, Melissa went to school officials once again, and once again her concern was dismissed. But she was determined not to be ignored. Melissa immediately pulled Camden out of Hope Academy. But she did not want to leave the issue there, thinking about all the other special needs students in there. She was worried about the other special needs students and did what she was supposed to do. She posted the video on Facebook. Her plan worked and the post went viral, forcing the school to take the action. The principal went to release the statement saying that one of the teacher was fired. She also requested the Davis family to meet her and other school officials to discuss the issues, but by then Melissa had other ideas in mind. Melissa hired an attorney and planned to file a case against the school. No child should have this to happen to them. The pressure forced the school to fire the second teacher from the school. Many people praised Melissa for her courage and smart action and advocating on behalf of special needs children. Special needs children need to be cared for and loved in a special way, and people need to understand that. The efforts of this mother should be applauded, and every mother should do everything to protect their child. After all, for every mother, their child is special. These discoveries in Egypt have left scientists terrified. Hidden chamber in the Pyramid of Giza. The Pyramid of Giza is known worldwide as one of the largest pyramids ever found. After researchers spent several years examining the monument, they thought they'd learned everything there was to learn about the Great Pyramid. However, in 2017 they discovered something that completely shook them. There had been a massive detail that was somehow overlooked after all these years. Researchers had learned that a large, previously unknown chamber was actually located inside of the pyramid. It's estimated that the chamber is made up of approximately 3 million stone blocks that weigh multiple tons each. The chamber is said to be located right above the Great Gallery and measures nearly 30 meters deep. Researchers were able to uncover this surprising hidden chamber after using more modern technology than what would have been used several decades ago when the pyramid was originally explored. When documenting the inside of the hidden chamber, experts used subatomic particles to map out the entire interior of the pyramid. News immediately spread about this newly found chamber. However, researchers have absolutely no idea what it may have been used for. Even after spending several decades exploring this pyramid as well as the surrounding areas, they have no idea why such a large, seemingly unusable chamber was built in the center of the structure. Maybe better details will come to light as years pass by, but for now, this mysterious chamber inside of the Pyramid of Giza remains a mystery. Mysterious liquid in a sarcophagus. An ancient sarcophagus or coffin had been exhumed from Egypt several years ago. Researchers were hopeful that this coffin would help to shed more light on some of the burial rituals that were popular at that time. However, some researchers were hopeful that this coffin might even contain the long-lost body of Alexander the Great as well. As experts were removing the coffin from its burial place, they suddenly noticed that everything was not as it seemed. The moment they took a look inside of the coffin, they made an unusual discovery that was unlike anything they could have expected. Researchers soon learned that the coffin did not contain the bones of the incredible leader known as Alexander. Instead, it contained the remains of 3 other people who had all been tightly buried together in a rather small chamber. On top of this, the coffin had reportedly not been sealed well, or the seal had withered away after more than thousands of years. They knew this because the coffin was also filled with a mysterious liquid substance that couldn't be explained. Some researchers speculate that this unusual red liquid might have intentionally been placed inside of the coffin, but no one knows for sure. This liquid was said to have been incredibly smelly, though some locals wanted to take samples of it to use it for their own private desires. Researchers soon learned that the liquid was not intentionally placed inside of the coffin. Instead, they found out that this liquid was actually sewage that had leaked into the coffin over the course of several years. Heraclian and Canopus. There are difficult areas in the pyramid that cannot be reached by humans, but that doesn't mean technology hasn't given us an astounding look into these. Traversing complete cities such as Heraclian and Canopus inside the forgotten chambers of the Great Pyramid has proven to be much more difficult. These cities were once 2 of the most important locations to ever exist in Egypt, helping to bring in goods from other nearby countries. However, as time passed by, these cities started crumbling, and they were eventually swallowed by the expanding sea. There are many incredibly well-preserved artifacts that have somehow been rescued from these cities, though. And these artifacts have given us fantastic insight into what life might have been like all those years ago. A team of highly experienced divers even managed to document the remains of an incredible temple that had been located deep beneath the surface. Inside this temple, they found several ceramic artifacts along with several batches of bronze coins. They also learned that the city was a lot larger than they had originally believed. As they continued their research, They even continued to uncover many more artifacts proving that the city was several times larger than it appeared to be. Light bulbs from Dendera. It would seem as though the Egyptians wanted to do everything in their power to ensure that their history would live on for as long as possible. To do this, they developed a rather complicated writing system that used images of common objects such as birds and other animals to document their history. These days this writing style is referred to as hieroglyphics, and we've come a long way in understanding how this writing system actually works and have uncovered many stories that the writings relay. Though one of the most interesting stories to have been shared through hieroglyphics seems to show an ancient version of a light bulb that has still remained largely unsolved. The problem with images like this is that, from what we know, the Egyptians would have had no reasonable way to create a basic version of the modern light bulb. The images and carvings that we have access to seem to show a depiction of a modern bulb, which has led some people to believe that otherworldly beings could have visited the ancient Egyptians and given them access to modern technology. We don't know for sure what these drawings could mean, after all, as they could easily depict an everyday object that would have been very common during ancient Egyptian times in the years. This object could have been lost to history and might have merely resembled a light bulb rather than being a viable light source for the Egyptians. The lost city of Aten. Looking back about 3,400 years in the human history, we come to the ancient Egyptian city of Aten. This town would have been located just 5 kilometers from Luxor and was named after the Egyptian sun god of the same name. This city was believed to have been lost to time, but in 2020 researchers managed to finally clear out the ruins of the town to let us get a much closer look at what life would have been like all those years ago. At some point, this town may have been the largest metropolis in all of ancient Egypt. There is evidence that suggests the town would have also been at the forefront of Egyptian culture, standing as a town where trading took place along with countless other acts of business. Aten would have also been the epicenter for almost every important deal in ancient Egypt and would have likely been the most important economic and administrative town at the time. When the town was built, ancient Egypt might have been in its prime. The discovery and research surrounding this town have even shed plenty of light on Egyptian culture, but the discovery has also provided us with several more questions than answers. Researchers are hopeful that as they continue to uncover new information about this town, they might also learn more about ancient Egyptian rulers.